No, I don't think
We come down in the summer. Then it's a different world. Hot and muggy, but it's not crowded. So I've been talking really out a lot.
It was like 3 screens, yeah. See. We're live.
Right now, I'm stepping up.
It was like 3 screens. Yeah.
Hey, how are you? Good. Good to see you. Got a place for you?
Very trained guys.
Do you want me to move it over so it's more in the middle of the table?
Good. What are you doing? Well, I got back on. Whoa.
Better than like the kid.
Yeah, but I'm still getting out there.
Nice to meet you.
I know.
Yeah.
Little bit more. Like this. Really lock it.
7 full days.
Yeah.
Your head has to be, completely
Yeah,
straight.
so your care was low. That's. Mine is not.
Molly gonna be here?
Yeah, it's right in the middle.
I had one
Okay,
side.
you're good.
Yeah, I was just trying to get everybody's
I have-
name tag.
I have.
Ready to go?
well, I have-
It's already live.
it was completely off.
Oh, okay.
So they put the gas that takes, take 8+ weeks to dissolve.
Just jumbo.
So it was interesting, because I kept having the bubble go further and further down.
Yeah, it's kind of.
It's gonna. Deb, Deb, they keep seeing your iPad. That's
And
what
then,
I'm
and then when it
checking.
goes up.
If you put it in here.
Yeah, when she was
don't
done.
leave.
Yeah.
All right.
I figured
If
it.
Debbie,
Oh.
if Debbie puts,
You know,
if Debbie puts her
I'll
iPad
move
here
this
for the
back.
time.
don't move that. Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, that is ugly over there. You know what? I wasn't paying attention to it. I thought it was your like water bottle.
Oh, no, that's. the
I know,
camera.
just now I realized it's different, but I was
That's
like,
the camera, but Mark
Yeah.
has to lock it like.
that's all right. I wasn't even paying attention. It's a good thing you said that.
This is live on YouTube, so.
So, gentlemen.
Oh, it's already, you're already. recording. It's on up.
You can get in trouble. Right?
Because I gotta sit over here. I gotta sit over here now. Is that better?
That, you should time.
Yeah. I should have brought glass. The one thing I learned. Peter, good, I'm good.
When I find Jim over there, what, I'll get that.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand. I can hear you.
We're counting then. Yeah, I'll vote. for you. I will.
No, thank
John, how's the campaign going? All is good?
Doing it the Chicago way.
Yes.
Yeah, when you ask who you're voting for, just say the purple guy.
Just say the purple.
The purple
Yeah,
guy with
right.
the purple shirt.
From Sanctuary Point.
Yeah.
Well, we're not good.
That's a room right next. You actually know about it. But I figure.
The purple people from Sanctuary. Yeah. Good morning. Is it too loud?
Great, what?
Okay. Good morning and welcome. My name is Lynn Frankel. I live in Sanctuary Point. I'm an original owner, along with my husband, and we moved here in 2004. So I've been very active in the community, and if you don't know who I am, that's who I am. And as chair of the communications committee, I get to ask the question, okay? And hoping that everything goes well and that you, the audience, will have an opportunity to ask questions after I do. So I'm hoping that we have time for that. Therefore, I will ask a question, and Debbie Panisi is sitting in the front. She will operate her iPad so that all of the people running for the board can see how much time they have left to speak before we move on to the next person. So, and you can all see that, right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to begin with the first question and tell you how long you have to answer the question, and then we'll proceed. Okay. And yes, Steve, I'm trying to run a tight ship.
And
these
started
guys-
on time. Started right on time. Good
Okay, well, I got the
job.
signal. Okay.
Good job.
All right, thank you. This is on Zoom, I presume, and so I welcome all of you. All right, I'm going to start with Ed. Every candidate has 2 minutes to answer the same question. And the question is, I'd like you to introduce yourself briefly and just give one reason why you are running for the board of directors. There's a microphone there.
Good morning. My name is Ed Kokela. I'm running for the Board of Directors for Sanctuary Point. I've been a homeowner at Sterling Oaks here for 10 years with my fiance, Sandy Berglund. Prior to retiring, I worked as a construction project manager and in the facilities department in schools in Minnesota. I'm a Florida resident and I spend 8 months a year down here. The reason that we chose Sterling Oaks is our realtor, whose husband is a teaching tennis pro down here, told us that Sterling Oaks would be the best place for us with what we're looking for. And so we chose Sterling Oaks for its tennis, proximity to beaches, and the amenities here. And I feel that we have some really, really good amenities to offer here. My first priority will always be to do what's best for the entire community. I support transparency, accountability, and responsibility. I'm a candidate who attends the board meetings regularly, and when I can't attend them in person, I do watch them on YouTube. I'm a volunteer. I started a Facebook group called Sterling Oaks Tennis Club, Naples, Florida. I recently changed it to Sterling Oaks Tennis and Pickleball, Naples, Florida. And I encourage everybody to check that out because realtors and people that are renting their properties are posting on there, and I've got a few seconds left. So I think the most important thing here is, excuse me,
Thank you.
fiscal responsibility of the community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Patrick?
Good morning, thanks for having me. My name is Patrick Worms. I've been here at Sterling Oaks since 2023. My wife and I bought a house in Sterling Oaks in Sanctuary Point. Currently on the finance committee, was also a part of a volunteer on the pickleball committee, and currently play a lot of pickleball with the captain of the 3-5 team and also playing the mixed doubles team. Spend about 7.5 months here in Naples versus being in Pittsburgh, which is my wife and I's hometown. Retired about 7.5 years ago. I was a global chief information officer for a global manufacturing company based out of Belgium, where my responsibilities included management of the IT operations over 13 countries, 100 facilities, and about 4,200 employees, and managed about a $25 million budget on a yearly basis. So come from a fiscal management perspective, project management perspective, and also an IT information technology background. Graduate of the University of Pittsburgh with a bachelor's degree in computer science, and I have a MBA from Waynesburg University, which is a college out of Pittsburgh, located in Pittsburgh. From a community aspect, I served on the Botanic Garden Board of Pittsburgh, the University of Pittsburgh Board of Computer Science, and Ohio University's Advisory Committee, plus held a number of positions in the Boy Scouts of America and the local Catholic churches. Part of my thing regarding Sterling Oaks here is communications. Had a lot of people talking to me about running, was debating it. Last meeting, I don't know if anyone knows, they didn't record it on YouTube. Kind of ticked me off because I always follow them on the YouTube process. Figured I needed to run and make sure we get the communications in the organization going.
Thank you. John Mulligan is running unopposed, but we appreciate the fact that he's here. And so tell us why you want to run again for the board of directors.
Okay, for those who don't know, excuse me, my name is John Mulligan. I've lived here, or I've owned here for 20 years since the condos were built. Retired 10 years ago and been coming down for 4 or 5 months. I had 35 years or so in finance and accounting. And the reason why I'm running is to keep us going in the right direction. We've made great strides over the last several years, and I just want to make sure that keeps on going.
Go for it.
Good morning. For those who don't know me, I'm John Irish. A little bit about myself. After attending Purdue, serving in the U.S. Navy, my career spanned about 45 years. Started out as mechanical engineering, so I have a big affinity for data. In fact, my nickname around here is Big Data. After that, I followed that up supervising in the information technology, about 35 programmers and what we used to call JAFOs, which was CAD operators. And moving into finally consulting, I consulted for companies, IBM, Autodesk, and general contractors in North America with revenues of $10 to $30 billion. Been around quite a bit of time. My major accomplishment, married to my wife, we'll be celebrating Veronica, we'll be celebrating our 45th anniversary this fall. We moved in here 8 years ago. This is our 9th year. Loved it from the moment we got here. I currently serve on the tennis committee. The whole purpose of the tennis committee is to make the club better. My goal is my number one goal being on the board is to improve the situation. I'd like to eliminate the us against them, we against them. And I'd like to try to unify and bring the community closer together so we benefit all the homeowners. Thank you.
Thank you. When Debbie gets it said. Okay, Mike?
Hi, my name's Mike McFarling. My wife Becky's over there. We have been down here 5 years, going on 6. We're here about 6 months out of the year. The reason I'm running for the board is Mulligan told me to. But after that, I have a strong commitment to being involved in things. Currently, I'm on a nonprofit board in Indiana for Family Promise, which is an organization that's trying to end homelessness, and they're doing a good job of that. I've been on the board of Gleaners Food Bank. I was on the board of McFarling Food. I was the chairman of the board. My work career, after graduating from Butler University, went into the family business, and I went from my first job, 10 years old, I was cutting chicken feet off, and I went all the way from plant manager, COO to CEO. The company was doing roughly $100 million a year. We had 198 employees, and we were an ESOP. So I have experience with a lot of mechanical things. We added on to our facility a few times, so I was in charge of the additions. So a lot of work-related experience with running facilities, and obviously we have a lot of that there. I think whoever of the two candidates that is chosen for 6 or 9, I think they're going to be represented well by either of us. And I think we share in common the same goals of transparency, making this place a better place. I think the only thing that was different in the two things I put at the very end, interested in a committee on food and beverage.
Thank you so much. If you have anything to add, this is where we're going to start with the next question, because a lot of you really got it together and very focused on the response. Is there any, or are there any other additional experiences that you would like everybody to know that you could bring to the board as a board of director? I'd like you to think back on any committee work you've done, any career experience that you might have left out in the first 2 minutes, anything that you have volunteered outside the community that you would like to tell everybody about, or anything that you would like to concentrate on as a board member for the residents of this community. And now I'm going to start backwards with Mike. You have about 2 minutes to make any additional comments that you would like to.
What I put out to, the folks living in 6 through 9, I was involved with the Plainfield Options Club, president of that. After I retired, I did go into real estate, and after selling about 25 homes, I decided that's not what I wanted to do. But at least I was licensed in Indiana to do that, so I do have an understanding of that also. And I think that's probably all I need to add.
Thank you.
I guess the one thing I'd like to add is something that I'd like to get done. As I said, they call me big data because I'm big on using data and let us use that data to help drive intelligent decisions. That's not a lot of people do that. One of the things I want to do is use that data, but at the same time, use common sense. And I'll give you an example. So recently, the board was faced with a dilemma, some complaints, some grievances about speeders, the back gate. So one of the people on board said, hey, let's pull the data, the gate data. Let's analyze it and see how many cars, what kind of traffic pattern is this a real thing? So they did, they pulled the data, they looked at it. Turned out it was 10 or 12 cars a day, average for 60 days. So not a lot. But then the board did the right thing. They used common sense. They ignored the data and said, you know what? If only one person is hindered or has a problem, maybe they're walking their dog and their dog runs into the street and almost get hit by a car that's driving too fast. Maybe it's someone on a bicycle that's a little bit unstable. You know, we're not all getting younger here, not like Merlin where we use it. So whatever the cause, they just decided to use common sense and do the right thing. And so we imposed a restriction that said, we're only going to use the front gate for all the non-members here. So that's the kind of thing I'd like to get more involved with, is use information that we pay for to make more prudent decisions. Thank you.
Okay, well, I think everybody knows I've been the treasurer here for the last 3 or 4 years, and and we have built up our balance sheet, and it's as strong as it's ever been, and that's one thing I want to continue doing. Because even when we had the hurricanes and all that, we didn't have any special assessments like most all the other communities did. And we're going in the right direction. As I said, I just want to keep it going that way and working with the finance committee in doing that.
Thank you.
John, you bring up a good point about the speeders, because truthfully, I was walking across the street and almost hit when someone was running a stop sign in front of the place there. So we do have that issue. For myself, and I've been on the finance committee the past couple of years and working with John and a couple of the other folks on the finance committee, it is impressive to see how the finances of the club have been. And I think we need to strive to continue that process moving forward. Just from another aspect, you mentioned past experiences that bring to the board or whatever. I was part of the Pittsburgh Botanic Garden Board. We had a tremendous task in front of us. To give you an idea of some of the stuff that we had to do, is we were doing a reclaimed coal mine, taking the acid minage, drainage and everything off the coal mine, reclaiming that. We put a botanic garden outside of Pittsburgh on top of a reclaimed coal mine. So imagine the work and effort taking to do that, where you have to go out and get donations, work through the community organizations, trying to get your state and capital funding and all the way to hiring the vendors to actually getting that built. And working with our Allegheny County, which is the county around the Pittsburgh area, to be able to get a 99-year lease with the land and everything. And just to get everyone involved in it. Tremendous task, tremendous amount of talent required from the board to be able to pull all those resources together to pull something like that off. I think that experience and additional other experiences I have in my background will, benefit the community with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanna, mention that the volunteering that I do. Also, I've been on the tennis committee. I volunteered to do just about everything related to tennis. A year ago, I helped with the car wash, which brought in a lot of money. I also got the people that I play tennis with on Sunday mornings to contribute to the legacy fund. And together we brought in just over $1,100 donations for the legacy fund. So those are the types of things that I do. I encourage the guys, come on, let's give to this. I was shocked when we came up with $1,100 for that. One of the things in the community here that I've heard people complain about is they live in a tennis community and they're not allowed to use the tennis courts. Now, granted, they are allowed to use tennis courts, but it's $10 per time they use it, max out at 6 times during the prime season. And if they have their family in, it's probably gonna cost them $40 to get out on the tennis courts, and I think that's wrong. I promoted and tried to get the passage of the Oaks membership to be free for all the homeowners in the community. The Oaks membership allows you to play tennis later in the afternoon when the courts are not being used. Currently, there are 5 homeowners that have the Oaks membership. So they would get their membership for free. The director of tennis did a presentation to the board a year ago and said it would cost $150,000 a year to do that. That is ridiculous. And I'm still pushing to try to get this Oaks membership through. It wouldn't cost much at all to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. The board has asked its members to have between 2 to 4 chat sessions a year for the community. And for those of you who don't know, the communication committee has pledged and trained somebody from the communication committee to be a scribe at each one of those chat sessions. And the chat sessions, what goes on is typed up, and then through me to CZone, it is those minutes, they're not really minutes, but they're the essentials of what goes on in that chat session, gets posted on the website under the board minutes. And so the chat sessions were established to give the community members a chance to verbalize some of their concerns directly to a board member. So my next question is, what do you think the purpose of a chat session could be? How could you add to that? How would you conduct a chat session? And to John Mulligan specifically, I would ask, would you be willing to conduct a chat session when the board member did not? So I'm going to start with Patrick, because Sanctuary Point, many of the people who filled out the survey complained that there weren't enough chat sessions in Sanctuary Point.
Correct.
So that's why I'm starting with the 2 people from the 2 purple people from Sanctuary Point. Patrick?
Thank you. I agree, the chat sessions should be held, and they should be held quarterly at a minimum, in my view, if not every other month or even monthly in some cases. I think they need to be held both in person and via web, okay? Whether it's a Zoom call or a YouTube channel or whatever, and people should be able to go back and look at the replays, much like we can the board meetings when they're recorded. There's a lot of people that work or can't make specific times or have doctor's appointments any numerous situations that, but they own houses and need to be aware of what's going on in the community. The idea of the chat session, in my view, is to really gain that input from the community. I think there needs to be more conversation about what the projects are going on in the area. Some of the financial challenges that we have. Ed brought up a good point about tennis, trying to get more tennis membership from within the community. All could be used in that chat session to make sure that we're understanding where people want to take the community in the future. I think you also see that it appears to me, being, here 3 years now, that the community is having a massive changeover, that you have a lot of the original owners that may have bought 20 plus years ago, who may have bought when they're 60 and are into their 80s, and they're either going back north or sadly passing away. And you have a younger group that's starting to come in now, and we need to address the needs of that younger group as they come in. I think that puts more of a strain on our amenities, like the pool, the bocce, the pickleball courts and all. We're starting to see that strain happen on that because the younger people are tending to use those amenities a lot more versus some of the older people we have in the community.
Thank you. Ed?
Ditto. How can you add to that? That was a perfect statement that Patrick gave us. And I do believe, yes, you gotta have chat sessions. I think it's been 3 or 4 years since we had a chat session in Sanctuary Point. And I don't understand why we haven't, but I think it's a good opportunity, not only to get out what people want to say about what's going on in the community, but for them also to meet each other and get to know each other as neighbors, much like we're doing this Saturday in Sanctuary Point, where we're having a block party. And I think the other communities should consider doing that. So this is going to be a fun event that we have, and Lynn, of course, is the one that's organizing that. Thank you, Lynn.
Along with Lynn Ledgren.
Correct. So, it's just an opportunity again for our neighbors to get together and chat among ourselves, get to know each other better, and bring the issues forward that people really feel strong about. So, thank you. But ditto anyway.
Before John Mulligan answers the question, I would like to thank him publicly from the members of the Communication Committee. When the board decided to really look at the systems of irrigation and how we were going to address that, the subcommittee and John in particular provided the Sweetwater 6 to 9 with very specific information that all of the communities could use to help educate why the board wanted to take on the irrigation initiative. So I thank John in specific for setting that up and helping the rest of the board communicate with the residents of each of the smaller communities to get that issue understood and passed by the board. So John.
Well.
You got my vote.
Yes, to your first question, I would be willing to run a chat session. I've been invited to and attended a lot of different chat sessions throughout the community to give the financial data or answer any of the questions. I believe they are a really good thing. If it wasn't for that, we would not have made the changes we did for the irrigation project. We went out first and we had chat sessions, and then the community told us what they thought. A lot of it wasn't nice, but that's okay. But it was true, so we went and revamped it because of that. And also because at chat sessions, we've come up with the pool committee, we had that for a year or so. We come up with the fitness committee for the project team that run because of those things. So they're very valuable and they definitely should continue.
Thank you. John?
Well, there's not a lot more you can say. So I've got two things. One, about the frequency. Give a little bit different perspective. Bonnie and I live here year round. That's a different perspective because we see what happens basically when the village goes to sleep, when Sterling Oaks goes to sleep. Okay? And having a chat session at that time every month or every other month, I think is really overkill. So, because one thing that I found with owners is they don't want the club to be a nuisance to them, okay? They want all the advantages. Scheduling meetings, especially during the summer when many of the people in the condos, so the condos is basically three different types of people there. Okay, they're year-round owners like myself, my wife. There are renters who rent from owners and owners who treat their property like a real estate. Piece of real estate investment. So you see different people in there needing and wanting different things. Those owners that use their properties as an investment, their number one criteria is it rented? Am I getting revenue year round? So that's important. And they're not gonna attend chat sessions. So I take exception with, a monthly or even every other month during the summer months when this is a pretty sleepy village. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know, I gotta talk fast. I put in the information I sent out that, first thing I put on, I would listen and I would get back in a timely fashion. And, John Mulligan and John is the president of Sweetwater 7, I'm the vice president of Sweetwater 7, there's only two of us. We've had chat sessions, I think they're important. I wish there was more participation from the owners in them. It's not worth a lot to go and no one's there, but my intention is to be available. Everybody's got my phone number, they can get a hold of me. I believe in the relatively short time we've been in Sterling Oaks, I think things have gotten better here because I think people started attending the annual meeting more, and I think there was more pressure put on the board, and I think the board has done more in the last 2 years, do things that needed to be done here, so I think everything is going in the correct direction. I'd say 1 for sure a year, maybe 2 a year, and I agree with John that over that is just overkill, it won't be utilized at all.
Okay, thank you. And I would like to say thank you because I'm looking around and I know Steve has walked out of the room, but I thank the rest of the board. There are many board members sitting here in the audience, and it's really, really important that they're sharing and observing, and they get to ask the questions too when I'm done, of the candidates. So that's how communication should be. When I wrote the annual plan for the board, I talked about two-way communication, and that's so important, not only to the chat sessions, but how the board operates. Okay, this is a two-part question. We're going to start out with, what do you see as the positive aspects of Sterling Oaks? And I'm going to start with, let's see, who hasn't started? John Irish, would you tell us what you feel are the important positive aspects of Sterling Oaks?
I think the most important aspects are, number one, location. We have such a great location near the beaches, near center of Bonita Springs, close to downtown Naples. You can basically get anywhere you want to go. Number two, our amenities, I think, are as good as anywhere in Southwest Florida. Not only the amenities, but the cost of the amenities. very low. They're kept up at the highest level, and that's a great thing. The third thing I would say for the future, I think the future is not just Southwest Florida, but all the country is pickleball. So we've addressed that, the board has addressed that, we put in new pickleball courts. One of the things that I think is sorely lacking is we have a director of tennis who has stated on several occasions, publicly and in private meetings, that he has no intent in being certified for pickleball or in handling that activity. I would like to see us move towards a director of racket sports so that we would have one person both managing and overseeing the entire operation, at least as a first step. And that would allow all the pickleballers to not only take a lesson from someone who's certified in the industry, but also whether you're beginner or advanced. So if you're advanced and want to really get better and play competitively, you have that resource. Or a beginner, you can learn how to play maybe and avoid some of the injuries that are really prevalent in pickleball. So I see that as an area in the future that we could really do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike? Positive aspects of Sterling Oaks.
Well, as John said, location, other than, yeah, this is a great place to be, to get to things, get to the beach. From an insurance standpoint, and I haven't been here forever, but we seem to avoid a lot of the problems that are people on the other side of Tamiami. So, that's a good thing.
And Zone B.
Yeah, so that's a very good thing. As far as our amenities, no issues. Part of it, we aren't Pelican Bay, but people here don't want to pay for Pelican Bay. So I think price adjusted, what we have here is very, very good. I think the tennis facility, I played at Pelican Bay tennis there. This is a very good facility. There's some things could be done to improve it, that there always can be. As far as going forward in the future, I play a lot of pickleball. I'm not sure that the pickleball community has a great deal of interest in having someone that's over everything. I think a lot of them look at it as a free amenity. I think when we get to that point, pickleball there may be some fee attached to that also, which personally I don't have a problem with. I believe that some of the folks that play pickleball do have that problem. The nice thing about pickleball, the maintenance costs are considerably lower than they are in tennis. What I would like to see over there, it'd be nice to have if there could be done, have a restroom over there would be a wonderful thing to have going forward.
Okay, thank you. Patrick, 2 minutes. What's positive in your opinion about Sterling Oaks?
There's a lot of positive things about Sterling Oaks, and I'll just use my own experience. When my wife and I were looking at different communities, the one thing we liked about Sterling Oaks was, I'll call it the vibrancy, okay? Very active, people engaged. Personally, the tennis program brings in a ton of, I'll say, active people versus going to a golf community where it seems much more subdued, little older, a little bit stuffier. It's a lot more friendly and I'll say common folksy, if you want to call it that, here at Sterling Oaks. So the amenities, we've got great amenities, the location, plus the cost of the HOA and all. It's that question, hey, do you want to buy a Ferrari? Do you want to buy a Volkswagen Beetle? Do you just need something in between that gets you from A to B and you enjoy it? There are some improvements we can be doing. There's been some
That's
mention.
the next question.
What's that?
That's the
Okay.
next question.
All right. I'll leave it at that.
Ed? Thank you.
Thank you. And I agree, the amenities and the variety of amenities that we have here is outstanding. The friendships that we've gained with people in the community, not just neighbors, but you know, personally, it's the tennis players that are from the community or come in from outside the community. We've got we've made so many friends down here. It really makes living down here just wonderful. Again, the location is amazing, especially if you know what time to leave the community to do your shopping. I believe that, Channel 901 can be a real benefit, but it's not being used properly. And I'll probably address that with the next question. So
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. John?
I think two of the biggest thing is, one, we get the best bang for a buck here. I think it's just phenomenal compared to all the other communities. And we're a small enough community that it's personal, but we're big enough to be able to do a lot of things we want to do.
Okay, thank you. And we also, for a small community, have two entrance and exit points, which is really important during the traffic that we're experiencing now. Okay, here comes the question I know that you really would like to address. What changes or improvements would you like to see occur here and why? And under that question is, how would you, if you were elected to the board, help to make those changes or improvements? And how would you gain support for that? I'm going to start. Who hasn't started? John, go for it.
One of the things I think improvement would be that I would go for would be to enhance the.
3 minutes, Debbie. 3 minutes for this one.
No, sorry, I won't do that. Would be enhance the food and beverage operations, whether it's expanding this or the cabana. We've tried that a couple times in the past. It hasn't passed. I think that was the wrong answer, but that's the community voted. Since then, we've gotten a lot, as Patrick mentioned, new people in here, younger people that want to do different things. So I think that would be one of the best things to hear, because every time when we have too many people here, we still have the same fryers or whatever. We can't get bigger and better that we want to do.
How would you go about making those changes?
Well, we'd have to get support from the community, go out again, and I think the last time or two we tried, we went from, as Patrick said, the Volkswagen Beetle to the Bentley. You know, last time we started here, we went up too high. I think we want to go somewhere in the middle that people will vote for as opposed to going too high. We got to get community support, which I think we can now.
Okay, John Irish, what would you like? What changes would you like to see? What improvements? How would you go about it and gain support?
Well, I think one of the things that's going to be a problem in the future, as Patrick said, we're getting more and more younger people, more and more active. One of the things you'll note here all during the season is parking. It's starting to become a real issue from 8 o'clock in the morning until 12:30 in the afternoon and beyond. So at some point in time, we're gonna have to look to address that. I don't know if we'll be violating any ordinances, naval ordinances for parking on the street during regular hours, but I think we're gonna have to look at that forward, determine what the rules and regulations are, determine what options we have available. And as such, if I'm a member of the board, then I'll ask that we prepare some studies, get some information so that we see what kind of options we have to address the parking. Because right now, it's jam full. Thank
you. All right, Mike.
As I had said earlier, talking about having a food and beverage committee, we utilize the cabana, we utilize this facility. I've had a lot of people say to me, the food's really good at the cabana. Why is it not as good when we come for some special event here? What I would like to see happen to the cabana, currently, we have a very inefficient system. I talked to Barry the other day. Barry said he put 13 miles in walking I think in a day, he counted how many steps he had. I don't understand why the cabana can't, be enlarged to have a grill, and have, you can have a limited menu. The menu is relatively limited now. You can have a limited menu. You can fix everything there. The people, staff could be here, they could work down there, then come back here if you had an evening function. But you would cut out all of these useful steps that people make. Part of my past experience was in production, and it's really important to cut out any unnecessary movements, to be profitable in what you're doing. I think we wear out people a lot slower than. The other thing, we live in the Sunshine State. We don't have solar anything here. I think long-term, maybe the areas in the pool that are covered, maybe panels become to replace the canvas there in some fashion. Let's generate some power. It's getting less expensive all the time to do that. Back in Indiana, we have solar power on our house. We have electric bills run very low, and Indiana is not the Sunshine State. So I would like to see that.
Thank you. Ed?
But you've heard all the candidates here tell you about their background, their experiences and stuff like that. And that would hold true for most people in the community. And so when it comes to volunteering, I really believe that we need to reach out to people in the community to volunteer to do certain things. The example that I'm going to give, and it's a pretty simple thing, so most anybody could do it, is Channel 901. You know, not everybody gets up in the morning and turns on their computer and looks at the website for Sterling Oaks, and instead, maybe it would be nice if they could just turn on channel 901 for 2 minutes and see what is going on. Currently, they post about 10 or 12 different items, including the landscaping, the brochure. These are things we all know about. We don't need that on there. But they run these for like 20 seconds each. So if you have insomnia, we have a cure for you. We could have somebody in the community monitor that and put in there the most updated information on what's going on in the community. This is one of the items that was in that, in the posting on 901, but there's so many things that are not on there that should be on there. And if it was just a 5-second flash and go from frame to frame, you might stay awake for it. But I really think that we need to take advantage of the volunteers. Last summer, we spent $150,000 to redo 2 tennis courts. We have a member here from the Pennsylvania who has a business of maintaining hundreds of clay tennis courts. He's offered his expertise. He's been turned down. He said you didn't have to spend that $150,000 to redo those courts. Yes, there was work that needed to be done, but it would have costed a fraction of that. The tennis director just blew him off and went to the board and said, we need new tennis courts for 2 and 3, or 2, 3, and 4. 2 and 3 were approved, number 4 was not. So we need to listen to the volunteers. There are people out there that are experts in their field, and they can help Sterling become more financially responsible. Thank you.
Thank you. Patrick?
I mentioned before about the vibrancy of the community and making sure we have the amenities to handle that vibrancy and the new people that are coming in. Some of the things I'd like to see done is, in addition to what John and Mike mentioned about the food and beverage, I think that's a big key moving forward. Pelican Marsh, who I looked at actually buying a place in there, did not have food and beverage. They did not have a community pool like we do. I thought that was a great advantage Sterling Oaks had. They now have food and beverage over there, believe it or not. They finally voted that in. Being on the pickleball league team, you get to go see all these other communities and you could see who we're competing against as we try to bring in people into our community and selling of new homes. I think number one, food and beverage and the expansion that was discussed is a big key. Number two, I'd like to see some more work done in the pool and potentially bring back the pool committee to see how we expand the pool. When we have the singers over there, the pool is packed. Okay, when the beaches are closed because of any hurricane or storm damage, the pool is packed. Is there a way we can potentially increase the space around the pool and all? And a third item I'd like to see is when we look at this community, there's only 15 to 20% of the people within this community that are tennis members. How do we get that increase to be able to say, hey, we're a tennis community, but we're paying for 10 to 20% of the people in this community to play tennis, okay? So we need to have tennis self-sufficient, and we need to somehow think about, and I think Ed's put a couple proposals forward as to how we increase that tennis membership within our own community.
Okay, thank you. All right, last question is only 1 minute. Get ready, Deb. And thank you so much, Debbie, for doing what you're doing.
You did a great job.
Hard to keep up, yeah. I called Debbie early this morning and I said, okay, there's no way I'm gonna be able to keep time, listen, ask the question. She said, I got the solution for you. Thank you. So I thank her. Community members, myself included, when there are events or when there are functions that different things that are planned, you know, from food and beverage, from activities or whatever that's going on, people look to see how many board members are present at each of those events. And so my last question is, before I turn it over to the audience to ask questions, is what would be your commitment for attending those events? And how could you show the rest of the community who shows up in the worker bees that you care and that you're present and available? Ed, want to start with that?
Sure.
1 minute.
I would definitely make a strong effort to attend as many of these events as possible. I would also post this information on the page, the Facebook page that I run, Sterling Oaks Tennis and Pickleball Club, Naples, Florida. I would do that. I would encourage people that I know, let's get together and enjoy this. We had an event last year where Johnny Karib and his band played at the pool, and the place was packed with all our tennis friends. They love Johnny Karib, and I wish he would come here more often, and I wish they would invite him here more often. So, yeah, I guess that's what I've got.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick.
That's a good question, because I think it's great to have board representation at all of those. But just like a board member, just like anyone else, everyone has their areas that they like to attend and things that they don't like to attend. I mean, some board members might not like to go sit there and watch pickleball for an hour, or other people are really into pickleball, same with tennis, same for things. But I think it is important that the board members get out and try to make as many of those community events as possible and moving forward to do that.
John?
I agree, and I think, as you know, I'm at a lot of the events, especially the ones that serve alcohol.
And he helped wash cars. When we did the car wash for the Legacy, he was right out there in the rain with us. Okay, John Irish.
Well, as I said, we live here year round. We'll try to attend as many events as possible. And I think the way that I would communicate that with all the people in Sweetwater Bay 6 through 9 we'll just put out a blast. I have all their emails. I can put out a monthly blast and say, here's the ones I'm planning on being at. Why don't you come up and join us?
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, there's no question, I mean, everybody's saying the same thing. We need to be present at as many things that we, as Patrick said, we care to attend, so not everything do we care to attend. In my past life, our customer base was all restaurants, so Becky and I went to a lot of restaurants. So that was one way of meeting the customer base. In a way, the members here are customers in some fashion. So yes, it is very important to do that. And I would be more than willing with Becky to attend these.
Thank you. I want to say I'm very impressed. All of you are interesting, intelligent, bright, and you have your issues. And now it's time for some of you, I will walk around the room, to raise your hand if you have a specific question that you would like to ask any member sitting right there. Okay, are you ready? Okay. Lucy. Morning.
Question for Patrick. You mentioned that one of the things that you feel is missing or need some work on is communication. If you were hired as a board member, what would be your first task at hand to resolve what you gaps are?
Well, the first one I think is any of these events or any of these, meetings that the board is having. Thank you. Any of the meetings or any of the events that the board is having should be recorded on YouTube. There's no reason we can't do that. And like I said, the last board meeting, for whatever reason, it wasn't. I don't understand why, because I always like to watch the board meetings. But that's number one. Number two, and I'll disagree with John here on the one item about the communications about having the quarterly or every other month meetings with your members in your community. There is no harm saying, hey, I'm gonna have a chat session on a monthly basis. The people that show up, they show up. The people that don't, they don't. But in my view, I'm gonna try to get as much of that input as I can from the community members, especially in Sanctuary Point, because we haven't had that. In my view, I don't think we've had that recently in the past.
Thank you.
This is for all of you. The last two boards, we focused on tennis. John's managed to do a good job getting that under control. We focused on pickleball, and you can see the result. We focused on irrigation. Now the board is starting to talk about food and beverage. So this was addressed a little bit earlier. Specifically, what idea do you have to improve our food and beverage operation?
Back when the initial proposal came out to make an expansion and move the cabana to this side of the pool and expand the area and have, it would have expanded the footprint of the building, which is greatly needed, really. At the last board meeting, I heard about the people who play cards, and I never knew this, but they have a hard time finding a place to play cards because all the rooms in the building are tied up for other things. So there is a need for expansion, but as far as the food and beverage, I think it would benefit us to move the cabana to this side with a grill, a bar area, TV screens, I mean, the whole 9 yards. It's something that I believe that people, it almost passed a few years back, but it didn't quite make it. And people might be more agreeable that it's something that would benefit the community.
I have to agree with Ed there. I think another thing is I think some of the steps that have been taken over the past year or so, as an example with the pub night, have shown that there is enough people to support that type of activity moving forward. So I think we need to continue to move forward down that path. I think if we try to do an expansion, it may take a year, 2 years, or however long that takes. But there was talk about having a food truck come out more often. Does that start to make sense? I think all those things are on the table and we need to start exploring all of them.
As I said, I think we have to expand either the cabana and or the operations up here, because we had 70, 80, 90 people the first, I think 110, I think, actually, the first pub nights. But when you only have 2 grills or 2 fryers or whatever it is, people are waiting, people are complaining, people are not happy. So I think that's something we have to work on.
Well, the food and beverage gets back to the utilization of land. We have a limited amount of land space here, but you're gonna expand the footprint of the building itself, whether you're gonna try to expand the cabana. We need some studies and some options, as I said before, so that we can figure out what makes the most sense and let the community decide what makes the most sense and what's the best way to expand that food and beverage service. I like the idea of bringing in some food trucks, so at least we have some variety, some differences, and gives us some time to make some better decisions. Thank you.
If I were placed in a position to have some input into this, either being on the board or having a food and beverage committee, with my background, I was on the supply side of restaurants, but I know a lot about restaurants also. I think things that I know that can be done without increasing our footprint. One simple thing that I found in the country club in Indianapolis, sous vide cooking, which you may not know what it is, but anyway, you put a piece of meat in a bag. If you want it to be 135 degrees, you leave it in there at 135 degrees until it's 135 degrees. If you have limited space, you can pump out 100 medium rare steaks, and then you put them on the grill for a minute or so. You can make them whatever above rare you want to do, so that it increases your ability to serve more people. Another thing that's done, McFarland Foods was in a co-op. So we combined all these other small companies into groups where we had more buying power. I don't know presently, because I don't have the information, if this club is in any association that has the potential to increase their leverage in purchasing. I think that's something that needs to be done. Right up the street is a place called Restaurant Depot. I don't know if it's utilized at all, but it's set up with no sales, no delivery, so all the food is cheaper. We don't want to go pick it up, but at least it would be a source to go and look and see what they're charging for things, to make sure that what we're paying, I believe they use Gordon Foods, is an appropriate price to be paid for that. So I think there's things we can do without enlarging it, but I still agree with, and everybody seems to agree, that we need to do something to make the cabana more self-sufficient and more productive.
Thank you.
I don't really have a question, but I just wanted to thank the 5 of you for volunteering and to do some community service around here. And as Lynn said, I'm really impressed and really happy that no matter who wins, I think our board is going to benefit greatly from you 5 gentlemen. And I want to thank you for volunteering for this high-paying job.
That's amazing.
Hi, couple of things. As far as expansion of facilities goes, we always run into a problem when it comes to it. Everybody loves the plan, but then there's talk about the financing, the assessment, this, that, and the other. We're currently putting away $10 a month, as I understand it, for the capital improvement part of our budget. Is that right, John?
Well, we have a long-term capital
Long-term capital.
long-term capital fund that we
Yes.
use for things like pickleball courts, putting the
Right.
sunshades, et cetera, bocce courts, yes.
But that was originally set up when the first plan was put forward as part of the financing for that first plan, which the $1 million plan, which unfortunately didn't pass.
Right,
But,
that's my understanding, correct, that started back then.
it started as $30 a month and has gradually been whittled down, partly to hide increases in the budget elsewhere. And partly because Brownie didn't want that sort of capital improvement fund or whatever, for whatever reason. Anyway, my opinion is it should be higher. We need to put more money away if we're gonna do things like re-site the cabana or rebuild the cabana, because then we've got money in the bank to do it as a capital investment, as opposed to it being something we have to have an assessment for or get a mortgage for or something of that nature.
That's a good idea. I mean, I'm not, arguing that. It hasn't been reduced since I've been there, I believe. It's been that way for a while, that amount. And it's easier said than done to increase it, then people will bitch and complain about the dues going up. So it's, you know, I understand, I hear what you're saying, because you do that little by little, you'll have millions of dollars or $1 million built up. But then there'll be some people saying, oh, you have $1 million built up, what are you gonna do with it? So it's,
Anybody else want to answer that?
I thank you all. You guys did a great job. Trouble is, everything you said triggers another question, so I'll try to keep it brief. First of all, the pickleball court, fantastic. I think it's the best move made. You go, easy to get court, easy to get game. The tennis, on the other hand, is a big issue. So my question is multi-faceted. It's one, I'm trying to understand the data of how many in the community are playing tennis or are members of the tennis community. Also, I'd like to understand how the tennis fees that are paid for the privilege of playing tennis, and other than the commodity of it, who does that money go to? Does it go to the community, or is it an independent company that leases out property in Sterling Oaks? And then the other thing might be a suggestion is perhaps we can, when I first came to the community, I'm here about 8 years. When I first came to the community, there was a group that had a specific court. Show up at a particular time in the day, it was maybe 2 hours during the day, and you get rotated in. Similarly to pickleball, which is a fantastic idea. And that would give the members, the residency and the opportunity that like to play tennis. Maybe they're not pro-am, maybe they're just intermediate level. Give them the opportunity to get a game in among people of their peers. And if that's something that you guys can arrange.
Okay,
So I'm in Sanctuary Point, so anybody who wants to answer is welcome. Thank you.
I'll take that.
all right, John Irish.
I think we just had a tennis committee meeting yesterday, and I think the current membership owners who are members here, I think the number was 111, which is up significantly. I think we were down to about 94 2-3 months ago. So that kind of agrees with the uptick in new people coming in being interested. So that's one. My understanding, John knows much more about this than I, but my understanding is there's only one general revenue fund, and all the tennis membership money goes right into that general membership fund. So all the tennis money helps keep the HOAs lower, as long as we keep that above the expenses. That's one of the things, one of the goals that the tennis committee has two goals when you first come in. I just learned this last April. Number one is to help the pro with the budget. There's a lot of different opinions on how that really works, but he gets a budget, and what we try to do is maintain that. Like Ed talked about, we did these 2 courts. The results are not satisfying, and a lot of people feel we wasted money. We don't want to do that. We want to be more fiscally responsible. Number 3, for your drop-ins, there are 2 drop-ins offered every week. I believe it's Tuesday and Thursday morning, courts 11 to 12, 8 to 9:30 in the morning. If you're working, that doesn't work. One of the comments that we just had at the tennis committee meeting yesterday was, we need to take a look at that because we may be taking court time away from all the members that we have here. The courts are filled from 8 till 12:30 almost every day. After that, we have, I think the men alone have,
At least
Six-
a half a dozen
6 or
teams.
7 league teams.
Yeah.
And the ladies have more than us. I think they have 8 or 9 teams, and all of those take place in the afternoons. So it'd make a lot more sense for a couple of reasons, especially at this time of the year, to have drop-in times so that we can have members rotating in for free, homeowners. And I agree with Ed completely. If I'm on the board, I'm gonna bring it up again, that all homeowners here should have a free Oaks membership so they can play in the afternoons, evenings, and on the weekends at no fee, period.
Anybody else on?
Well, on that, obviously, I'm not an expert on this, but I think it would be great to have a utilization study done on the tennis courts and the pickleball courts. Pickleball courts, since it's in the system, you have reserve courts. There's also in the mornings the open play, so we know when those are used, so we can figure out a way, even if we need somebody on the pickleball committee or something to look at that and say, we're utilizing this, the hours of operation on pickleball is 8 a.m. until basically sunset. And see, and let's do this during high season because it doesn't make a lot of difference the rest of the year, I don't think, to people. But let's find out exactly what we're utilizing. So then when we talk about it, we can intelligently talk about it well, when should things be open? Currently, I love the idea of the open play in the afternoon when they're available. But let's know when that is. Currently, if you wanted to do, one of these drop-ins, if you don't have a membership, you're gonna do it 6 times and you're done. So that doesn't function either. So let's get that information and find out what we truly are using.
Thank you. Yeah, you were talking about the open play, and like John said, there is a couple days of the week where they do have courts 11 and 12 open for that. And so this brings up that Oaks membership again. There's no reason why you as a homeowner should have to pay to play later in the day. The courts aren't being used. I will say, yesterday in the afternoon, 11 out of the 12 courts were being used for league play. That's a good thing. They take priority over people who would have that Oaks membership, but you would still have the opportunity to play after that or on courts that are not being used. And it was really unfortunate that a few months back, the board voted against a 2-month trial of the Oaks membership. I think that would have told us a lot if they had approved that. And it's something that we're still working on, and hopefully the people who do get on the board will see it that way and at least give it a trial and see what the tennis director put out about all the negative things about it. They don't add up. They just simply don't add up. It's not going to cost the community a lot of money to do that. 5 people will get a free membership. I doubt that anybody is going to drop their normal membership because they want to play earlier in the day anyway. Thank you.
I'm gonna take a different approach to your question there. And from my perspective, I don't know that that's board discussion, okay? I think that's more a discussion that needs to be held at the tennis committee level and with the tennis pro, okay? I think the community needs to get together and have their voices heard through that committee, okay? And that committee then needs to bring a resolution to the board for us to approve. Okay, I don't think you want the board getting involved into saying, hey, this 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock is open play or whatever. And if we don't have the right people on those committees or is the right person at tennis pro level, then I think that needs to be addressed in a different way. But I think your question, it's a valid question, don't get me wrong, and I appreciate what you're going after, but I think it needs to be addressed at the right level, which is within that tennis community and with the pro at that level.
just to rebut quickly, the tennis committee voted 3 times, sent it to the board, approved the Oaks membership.
I'm not talking about the Oaks membership, I'm talking about his open play and.
Open play, which is part of the policy, same thing.
And to your question about the funds and everything, there is just one big Sterling Oaks fund that food and beverage goes into, tennis goes into, but we keep track of the profit or losses that the tennis program does, okay? In 2024, the tennis over their direct expenses, they will have made almost $140,000. Okay, that's just direct expenses. Then that will go to cover money that comes out of reserves to build the courts and all that sort of stuff. So the tennis program, their direct charges are doing very well lately, and they're on track to cover the expenses that come out of reserve. But we have to keep, I think, talked about a couple of meetings, we have to keep at the certain level we're at now going forward to keep that going. If we drop below that, then we'll have a problem that the community will have to start subsidizing again, which we don't want to do, and we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
And Andy has another question. Does anybody else have other questions after Andy? Okay.
As we are basically a community that owns a tennis club, why can it not be accounted for separately?
Well, I guess you could start that, but where will they are they gonna own the courts?
No, we're gonna own the courts.
Are we gonna lease it to them? I mean, you have to have, the tennis program would then have to come up with hundreds of thousands or $1 million to start off with, so they could pay to do the
But
court.
can't it just be under a separate category within our own accounts?
Well, we do have that. We have a budget for tennis. It's its own department.
Right.
So we know exactly
But
what,
do we fully account for all the expenditure? I mean, there are Sterling Oaks staff who do work over there, right? Do they get charged? Is that charged to the tennis club, or is it just part of our general expenses?
it's part of our general expenses. We talked about doing that, but in business, that's a hard thing to do. You debating that over the last 100 years. How much do you charge? What should you charge? What will go away? So we could charge them some of Mark's West time, okay? How much do we charge? Is it 5%? Is it 3%? Is it
Not much, I
10%?
would think.
Which-
Oh, I'm sorry, Mark.
But-
Let me ask, can I ask this question this way, just to clarify? Andy, are you talking about the tennis pro and his folks, or are you talking about the office staff here, or both?
Oh,
Okay, well,
So
the
you-
tennis pro, and that gets directly to the tennis budget, okay? But Mark's time, Suzanne's time,
The maintenance guy.
they get charged some of that. But we don't charge that to them, okay? Because what do you do? And then you get the argument, okay, if we charge them Mark's time, okay, will that go away if we don't do it? No, he's gonna have the same thing. The gate, same thing. So we've been looking at, okay, what can we charge them? Is it 3% or 5%? What will that do? We're trying to get the tennis to have the profitability to encompass some of those expenses. So that's not, we've been talking about that for a while, but it's really hard to do, just like in any business when you try to allocate expenses. So, I mean, our first thing is to cover their direct expenses, which includes reserves, and right now we're doing it. And if we could get a little bit, they could start making another 10 or 20 or 30,000 above that, then we could allocate some of Mark's time, blah, 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 then that would be even better. But
okay, the second question I have is slightly different. Who would support a food and beverage committee of the potential board members here? Obviously, Mr. McFarlane will. Okay,
that's a great idea. Whether it's a committee or a project team, yeah.
and another thought I had, and I mentioned this at a board meeting a couple of years ago, but sorry, Lynn. Sorry, I'm not in order. Anyway, What I was gonna say was, why don't we have a food and beverage assessment for non-Sterling Oaks resident members? That's sort of $50 a month, use it or lose it, food and beverage fee. That would encourage them to use the food and beverage facilities firstly, which would be good from a revenue perspective. And if they don't use it, all well and good.
Are you talking about a minimum?
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. That's also been kicked around before for just a minimum within our own community. Most time that's gotten bogged down.
This is not within our.
No, I know, I'm
community,
saying,
it's the
no, I
outside.
understand that, that's a good idea. But we try to hear too, and that hasn't worked, but that's something that can be brought up. I agree.
Okay, does anybody have any more questions who are here? Do you have any questions? Okay.
Thank you.
I thank you for coming, and as Steve has said, this has been a win-win situation for the community. We've got great people running, for the board who have made their intentions known, and I thank you very much, for being here this morning, and I thank all of you for being here. Take care.
Thanks.
Thank you. Good luck, guys. Good luck, guys.
Thanks.
Nice job.